Hi, Tinkerbell. It's my birthday.
Peter Pan! 100 years old! I'm surprised you can fly at all!
No one's better than me. And my life story's the best story of all time. Whoa! Whee! Yahoo! Catch me if you can, Tink.
I think everybody has a little bit of Peter Pan inside them. Everybody wants to be 6 years old sometimes and stay in their pyjamas till noon and just hang out with their friends.
It's really truly a work of pure genius. It's absolutely a masterpiece.
I remember feeling incredibly envious of the fact that the children could fly.
Really, it's a love story. It's a great love story.
I was admired and wanted to be Captain Hook ever since I was 8 years old.
Peter Pan is the greatest story of all time.
Happy birthday, Peter Pan!
I'm the busiest superhero ever. I've been in plays, books, there've been movies, records and hundreds of pantomimes, even video games.
So where are we going, superhero?
Back to 1904, when Peter Pan was born.
You mean when the play was written?
I mean when it all began.
If you ask your mother whether she knew about Peter Pan when she was a little girl, she will say, "Why, of course I did, child." If you ask your grandmother about Peter Pan when she was a girl, she also says, "Why, of course I did, child." This shows that Peter is ever so old, but he is really always the same age, so that does not matter in the least.
Everyone knows my story. I'm the boy who never grew up, who took Wendy and her brothers to Neverland, where we fought Captain Hook and the pirates.
It's my story too.
It's my birthday. Okay, this is the plan.
Good night.
We're taking these kids on a journey about my life. It's all about me. Ready with the magic dust, Tink?
Here goes.
My life story started with one man, Sir James Matthew Barrie. J.M. Barrie to his friends.
Who's he?
A really famous writer who wrote a groundbreaking play all about me. I call him the Inky Man, because he wrote his books and plays in pen and ink. No computers in those days.
So, what's with the dog?
The Inky Man used to walk him every day in Kensington Gardens. He didn't have any kids of his own, so he talked to the ones he met in the park. That's how he met George and Jack Llewellyn-Davies. And they changed Inky's life forever. Without them, Tink, I would never have been born. You see, every day George and Jack's nanny took them to the gardens with their baby brother Peter.
And they caught Barry's eye, and of course he was always intrigued by children, always related far better to children than to most grown-ups. And they gradually made great friends.
Inky could make his eyebrows wriggle, and even got his dog to do tricks. I've never liked dogs myself, but George and Jack thought Inky and the dog were great.
That sounds pretty weird.
Not in those days, Tink. George and Jack loved listening to Inky's fantastic stories. And remember, this was 100 years ago. Grown-ups hardly ever talked to kids. They were supposed to be seen and not heard.
You mean they had to creep about on tiptoes?
Nah. But kids like the Davis boys spent most of their time in the nursery or with their nanny, and only saw their parents once or twice a day. No wonder they loved listening to the Inky Man.
And at some point, Barry in fact started telling George in particular a story about his baby brother Peter, who at night would often fly out of the window and go off to Kensington Gardens and have a few adventures with the fairies, and then pop back before dawn, except for the day when he came back and found the windows barred. So he becomes the spirit of Kensington Gardens.
Of course, back then I was only someone in stories that Inky made up with George. Thing is, the Inky Man had never actually met Peter and George's mum and dad. At that time, you couldn't be a proper friend of the family without being formally introduced by another grown-up.
So what did he do?
He got a lucky break.
One evening, Barry was at a dinner party, and he found himself sitting next to a lady who he thought was the most enchanting lady he'd ever seen. And he was rather intrigued by the way she was secreting after-dinner sweets in her handbag. And he asked her who they were for, and she said, for Peter. And he said, a dog? A boy, she said.
And then gradually the penny dropped, at least with the children that he'd already met. And from that point on, all their lives changed.
It was their mum, Sylvia, that he'd met. She and the Inky Man hit it off immediately.
She's fascinated by him, in the same way as the boys are fascinated by him. And that's, I think, the kind of wonderful undercurrent of this story, is that they're so magnetically drawn to this man. And not because he does anything, not because he entices them in, just by being who he is, you know, and sort of welcoming them into his kind of fantastical world in the way that he does.
He was someone who observed a family and wanted to be part of it. I don't know if you ever experienced that, but I have. You know, you see a group of kids having a lot of fun and you want to be part of their world.
Anyway, little by little, Inky got more and more involved with the Davis family life. He was always telling the boys how wonderful they were.
And of course, all mums like that.
Last one in there for Hairy Toad! I won't get it there! I won't! I'm afraid I've grown hopelessly lax in my discipline.
Nonsense. Young boys should never be sent to bed. They always wake up a day older. And then before you know it, they're grown.